Is that the Noveski fucking carry handle one? Dude, that's my favorite fucking rifle I've ever seen.
Wait, is it a fixed carry handle or
it's
is it
a
one of
fixed carry handle Noveski?
Yeah, it's a fixed. So,
is it 11 and a half?
10 and a half. Zach is my buddy, and so he sent me this, the barrel, and they cut the handguard for me. So you can see they custom cut the handguard. And cool. I got Slade's grip, and yeah, I was supposed to be, I was told I was the first one that had this, but it took me forever to get the rest of the damn parts, so I'm the last one to have it together, but I got it.
Dude.
I love how it went from 10.3 is like the hotness to now if you don't have an 11.5 and it's a 10.3, everyone's like, it's trash. Even though everyone used it for 20 years, it's like, oh, Mark 18 length is trash, dude.
Dude, I had people chastising me the other day about that. Literally. They're like, oh man, it's too short for me, but if it was an 11.5, that's kind of my style. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, I get it, but how the difference isn't that crazy for you to just be like, no, I prefer 1 inch more. You can't be done 1 inch less.
So I got a cool story about this. So my friend was at the time the N8 when they were doing the barrel portion. So everybody thinks that they're like, oh, the military just brings you the guns by the lowest bidder. Maybe like Big Army, but not SOCOM. And so when they were doing it, they cut it to 10.3 because that was as short as they could get it and still get the grenade launcher on there. Well, after 20 years of combat and that Mark 18 still in combat and still will be there for the next decade. So by the time we're done 30 years, whenever the program of record was up, they were just like, is there anything that we could do that's better? Well, after, thousands and thousands of rounds, they figured out the 11.5 was just a little bit better on bolt faces and just a little bit better for gas and all the little jazz that y'all normally know. But they didn't mass change everything because it was so much better. And like the Mark 18 went through the worst of combat that probably we're going to see for the next decade, 2 decades. And like, what the hell's wrong with a 10.3? If you have a 10.3, keep your 10.3. If you don't, maybe get an 11.3 or 11.5. But in all honesty, dude, how many of you watching this right now are going to say, I shot 6,000 rounds through this and broke my bolt face? And if you did, then okay, cool. You buy another bolt face for $130 and shoot another 6,000. Like,
that's not even the argument.
Is the issue.
That's not even the argument most of these guys are hitting me with, though, dude. They're like, it's the lethality thing, and I'm like, the lethality difference between a 10.5 and an 11.5 is not worth getting been out of shape over. Like you said, to your point, this thing's been through hell and back for the past 2 decades, and more, right? Like, it's that barrel length. It's okay for a vast majority of engagements that are currently happening and have been happening. So if you can't do it with that, maybe you need to step up the caliber. I'm not saying you have to, but like if that's your thought process, then and your go-to is an 11, like what do we even? It's apples and oranges. It doesn't even make sense.
These dudes aren't even shooting that much. In the comment section, they'll tell you they're shooting 5,000 rounds a month or something crazy. Nate, in the comments right now, put down, if you're watching this, put down how many rounds you're actually putting through rifles. Because I guarantee you these dudes are not training as much as they're saying they're training.
Well, and then here's the bigger part. 10.3, 11.5, 12.5, 13.7, 14.5. All of those, if you're not shooting 77 grain Sierra Match Kings, Black Hills 262, if you're not shooting or 70 grain Barnes, those are the 2 bullets they shoot. 77 grain Sierra Match Kings, 70 grain Barnes. The 55 grain training ammo that you have for your Tilawaki SHTF, you better not shoot that on a Mark 18 or an 11.5 or a 12.5 because you ain't killing anything with it. You better be shooting that in a 20-inch barrel, your 55 grain stuff.
Freaking 16 is a sweet spot, dude.
Yeah, like this is where you guys you don't understand the ammo. So when people are like, there was one of the questions in their trench that they were like, how many defensive rounds should you have for SHTF? It's totally different. 55 grain ball isn't defensive rounds. I'm going to even argue 62 grain isn't defensive rounds. So if you have Black Hills 77 grains or If you have Barnes TSSX 70 grains, cool. Maybe Defiant Ammunition's 62 grain. That's okay, great. That goes back to my 30 loaded mags.
I don't know. I think if you're balling on a budget, dude, you got one of two options, realistically. Well, we'll say one of three, okay? You get your 12.7 is like my retro build is a 12.7. I don't have it up here. You get a 12.7. You buy 210 rounds of 77 grain OTM, and boom, you're rocking and rolling. It's a carry handle. You're good to go. That's option number one. Option number two is buy a 16-inch reliable BCM or Daniel, right? Or Sons of Liberty Gunworks or something like that, and rock that with 55 grain all the way. What's driving me crazy, and you guys can agree or disagree, the dudes saying they're rocking a 20-inch barrel are not training because they're not carrying that gun. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on dudes saying they're carrying a freaking 20-inch and then they've never gone on a ruck or done a maneuver with a 20-inch?
I know a lot of guys that are doing, well, I don't want to say a lot. I know of guys who are rocking the 20-inch. I find that it's generally people, and I'm not trying to rag on anybody, I'm just pointing it out. They are on a budget, and that's like, they're that person, it's like, beware the man with one rifle because he knows how to do. Those are typically those guys, because there's dudes who talk about 20-inch rifles, like dudes talk about 1911s and 2 world wars, right? There's those dudes, and then there's the other guys who actually train and run the 20-inch. I think the dudes who actually train and run the 20-inch are scary motherfuckers, right? But it's unfortunately, online, the people talking in the comments are generally the ones still talking about 2 world wars, 1911s, and their 20-inch that they don't ever shoot. So to your point, that's where I think they're coming from.
Listen,
still love a 1911.
5.56 gets its freaking lethality from velocity, okay? And once you have if you don't have the velocity, it's about, here we go, it's about shot placement, right? But guess what? You typically will load a 30-round magazine, right, with 28 rounds. And for all the guys loading 30 rounds in their magazine, you're wrong. 28 rounds, because that's how you re-index quickly a top-off reload, okay? Or a reload with retention. There's only 2 types of reloads: reload without retention and reload with retention. No such thing as an emergency reload. So argue with me in the comments, you're freaking wrong. Okay, so if you're doing a reload with retention, okay, you need to have 28 rounds in a magazine. But the point I was trying to make is just keep shooting. Like, keep shooting them.
Well, they make those, somebody makes magazines where it's a little bit longer than a traditional, and so it takes up that account for the extra 2 mags, so you can load 30 in and still, it's not going to fall out when you start walking.
With the way mags are priced, what, $9 for a PMag? Let's grab a PMag.
I mean, I'll still use that. That being said, I still go with PMags just because it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
28 rounds in a freaking mag. That's why guys that argue about, why do you only load your mags to 28? It's like, well, you've never put a mag in and had it fall out after you go back to actually re-engage and had it fall out. So, and
it's kind of a dumb thing, but like, I always know if I reach in, I can push down a centimeter, and I'm like, okay, it's topped off. I just know instantly based on how much room there is.
Right.
We're good to go.
Yeah.
And then it's not putting any extra tension. Not that that's a big deal. I think somebody put out, like, these magazines can stay loaded for quite some time.
Right.
Yeah, I think Jaeger had some loaded for like 10 years.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. You remind me of Jaeger. So, back to your point earlier, Trench, when you're like, they're not out there training. I don't think they're putting that many rounds down range. It's like Jaeger said. If you were, I'd know who you are. Right? Like, that's what he always used to say. If you shoot that much, I know who you are. Right? And it's like, yeah, you're probably onto something.
So I have a video where I actually shot 6,000 rounds and 6,000 rounds through 2 separate Shadow System pistols. Took a long time to get to that round count, right? And then people in the comment section, I have 8 million rounds through my Glock 19 and never had an issue. It's like, first of all, that's not how barrels work. Okay. Second of all, are you rich? And do you have the time to sit there and shoot? So I hate reviews whenever, like, I'm going to watch a video and it's like 30,000 round review of this gun. I'm like, no, you didn't. You're a freaking liar.
There's very few people who will actually do it, and most of them it's obvious, right? Because they take so long to put out videos. It's like, oh yeah, they are putting that many rounds through it.
Right.
They're typically late to the review game on things because they're like, we had to put it through its paces.
Right. Let's see. let's see what we got here. I got some questions if you guys want to go through here. By the way, guys, welcome back to the Nuke Our Parks freaking podcast. If you want to support the channel, obviously we got Risky Krisky and Outlaw here. This will probably post on my channel. Just get in the description, comment, leave a comment. We enjoy reading them. We'll get down there. We'll either argue with you or whatever. But just check the description if you want to support the channel, guys. PSA will most likely be the sponsor of this video. Okay. Let's talk about revolvers real quick, because I just see this question. I'm not even going to read the whole question. Let's talk about revolvers. You have 30-second take on revolvers. Go. Outlaw. Do they have a place, etc.?
So, I mean, if we're talking about one, I think you should have revolvers because they're cool. They're old history. They're pretty awesome. I have a Smith & Wesson 40 PD, and I got it because of Chris Costa showing me a tactic to start using, and I think it's incredible. So, yeah, I think you should, so that J-frame Smith & Wesson for a quick reacting gun, or for something where you're on your back and it's on your ankle. I love them.
Okay. Risky, what do you think?
I agree. I think the main thing, at least now in 2023, if I'm using a revolver, it's going to be, and I don't do this, but I understand the concept and I like it. I don't carry two guns as a civilian on my person most of the time. Ankle gun, it makes sense. If you're on your back, you can't get to anything. You got that right there. You can put it in somebody's ribs and it's not going to malfunction. And then for the vibes, dude, like they're historic, they're classics. I want to get some like tricked out 357 with a long barrel and an RMR on top and have it engraved, just because why not, right?
I would have to disagree with both of you. The reason why is because people can't shoot their freaking staccato well. Well, they can probably shoot their staccato okay, but if they're not training with their staccato, I think save the money. I get it for the vibes. If it's literally just for the vibe, like, oh, here's my whatever, right? Because I've owned revolvers. I've owned a Kimber K6S. I've owned a Smith & Wesson 686 Plus and a Model 29 Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum. So I've owned them. I've owned a bunch of them. I've even owned the Model, I think it's the Model 29. I've owned the Model 69 Combat Magnum, and I've owned the Model 29 Dirty Harry gun. But seeing guys, like if you go watch Administrative Results, he's got his Managerial Outcomes channel. Shout out to Admin. Awesome channel. He's out there trying to shoot his revolver, and he sucks. Everyone sucks with revolvers if they don't train on revolvers.
Yeah, but if it's an ankle gun, like an Airweight 642, you just throw it in somebody's ribs. Like that's the whole point. I think it's the best backup gun that you can get.
I don't know. It is
642 Airweight
in muzzle
the ankle.
Contact.
Yeah, dude. Because you got your regular gun for everything else, right? It's just when you can't get to it or something catastrophic has happened.
Outside of that philosophy of use, right, as Nothing Fancy would say, outside of the philosophy of use of a freaking muzzle contact last ditch effort, they're only for barbecues for me. Any closing thoughts on that, Outlaw?
Yeah, man. I like I said, I learned the tactic from Chris Costa where I can hold the gun. Like I can't stand up and show you the guns in the other room, but hold the gun and hold your finger outside your.
I lost him.
I think the internet overlords did not like his response to your question.
He's like, I like to hold the revolver, and James Yeager came back from the dead.
Like he's holding it sideways,
no!
and then I like to mount the sights on the side of it.
Well, I
and
guess
then it cuts him off.
Oh, he's back.
There we go.
He's muted. He's turning. As he comes back to life. Oh, what's up?
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes.
He's back.
Okay, I hear you guys.
So the Chris Costa method, you said something about holding them.
You're sideways for us, or you're. I don't know how to explain it. Small screen. Okay.
Hamburger style.
Hamburger. Yeah, there you go. Maybe you're hot dog. No, he's hot dog style, right?
You're hot dog style. He's
Everyone
hamburger
can see
style.
and hear you. Can y'all see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Oh, we're so keeping this in. Hold on. I don't know. He's gone.
He's out again. We'll have to let him back.
I don't know, man. Revolvers for me are kind of seeing how the average dude performs with a handgun already. It's relegated to a last ditch thing.
I like it. like I said, I like it as a backup gun. I don't carry backup guns like that. So I'm speaking of somebody like I have a 642. I have a Security 6. It's an old Ruger police gun, a 357. I like it. It's cool, but like I'm not carrying that over a Glock 19, and I'm not going to carry that only instead of a. Well, I have before. I've carried the J frame in the summer in a pocket. Or just something small. However, I feel outgunned and I don't like it. I'd rather have a full-sized or like a compact Glock, I should say. But I will say this, as like a sniper's pistol, or like if you're out in the Alaskan bush, right? Like that, pulling that hammer back, getting that feather trigger or hairpin trigger, whatever the FUDs call it, right? That's great. I like that.
Driver.
That single action trigger on a revolver, on a nice full size revolver out in the woods, or
but that's
like
not how you
a sniper's pistol.
That's not.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't even do it.
Use it with a double action. So I was in Alaska. I was in Alaska for 3 years, and guess what? Guys are carrying. They're carrying a Glock 20, 10 millimeter because reliability. Yeah. If you get anything up in that revolver, it's a common misconception, right? You're going on a caribou hunt. I always carried a Glock 20 because you're going on a caribou hunt. You're going to get debris up in the holster, right? It's going to get wet. It's going to get ridiculous. So guys you get reliability issues with revolvers, and I think that's why a lot of guys are going to or have gone to the Glock 20.
I don't disagree. I'm always going to choose an auto loading semi-automatic over a revolver as my main carry.
Right.
Can you girls hear me now?
Yes, welcome back from, you took a leave on us there. Hey, are you the real Solid Snake?
The real Solid Snake.
I don't know what that means.
I did a video and my guys were like, hey, you need to do Metal Gear Solid. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But we did. And it was cool. It seemed to get good reviews.
Outlaw Snake.
Here's a good question. We'll just go around the horn here from John. How do you keep your balls from dragging on the ground? So what's the best technique? I don't know.
My balls aren't that
boxer
big.
short?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude.
If they hang low, aren't you then swing to and fro? Don't you throw them over your shoulder like a continental soldier? Isn't that what they say?
What in the world?
Or is that something else?
I don't know. Basic tracking tips and how to integrate into tactics of movement. I don't know anything about tracking. I don't know about you guys.
It's easier to track people at night. Cover your tracks. Take some. I mean, this is base level, low hanging fruit. Take a little branch with some brush on it. Scratch up your tracks behind you. Make sure you didn't snap anything. Put things back in place. But you got to have a back tracker. And then what does that prevent you from having if you're one man? Forward security, So it's like, it's all Met TC, yo. Like, do you have the people to do this? How fast do you have to move? Who's behind you? Who's possibly tracking you?
Right.
It's so involved. It's like
it's not,
that's some stuff. It's like, are you MAGVSOG? No, then probably don't.
Why are you worried about? Guys are going to be like, well, when the boom happens, I need to ambush the invading army. It's like they're going to have drones and FLIR. So
you just need to figure out how to get organized and meet people. That's the first step.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about meeting people. So, what techniques have you guys used to meet people? Well, we all have different background. Well, kind of. What techniques have you guys used to meet people to train with and I don't know, hold each other accountable, both for training and shooting, tactics, whatever?
Bro, the best way that I know is go take a class by somebody, because if you're into shooting, like I don't really have any what I would consider circle of friends that are into any of this. Shooting, hunting, like they're just not. And especially like the amount of people that take shooting self-defense or offensively serious is very, very small. There's about probably, I'm going to say 20,000, maybe 30,000 people. And why do I say that? Because they're the ones that are always in classes. And they're the ones that, like, when you see somebody's video and they're showing you a tactic, maybe 30,000 views. And when I look it up on vidIQ, that's about what people are looking for. So they're very, very few and far between. And so what you're doing is you're like, Risky, I really want you to be a part of my group, and I want you to love this as much as me, and I want you to have all these rifles that I have. And you're like, bro, I just have an AR-15 just in case of, something happens. But whenever you go to a shooting school, Those people took time out of their lives, money, vacation time, all of that. They're freaking pretty serious about it. And they tend to really help and create a community and hold you accountable. And I think that's the best way.
I like that.
Go ahead, Risky.
I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you don't have anyone in your life already. That's a great starting point, right? I'm fortunate. I feel like I have a lot of friends and family who are into it, and I wasn't necessarily aware or privy to that until more recently. But like, I have siblings who are all about that, so I can confide in them. With my background as a first responder, I know a bunch of dudes, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, who generally is into this? Veterans, first responders, people who are like outdoorsy or have their own homesteads or things like that, people who are taking classes, right? All of these things. So I'm already predisposed to a larger community, being a former first responder rather, and a veteran, and I'm surrounded by like-minded people. So I train with those guys, but to be honest, very few of them are into the weeds like I am. Like they might have a rifle or two or be all about it sometimes, but they're not. It's not like me, They're not full into this all the time every day. So to Outlaw's point, I've met people through YouTube, right? And like specifically, like let's say you, Trench, or the guys down in Florida, Barrel and Hatchet. And they do training, right? And I met them at a match.
They got some good content, dude.
Yeah, so it's put yourself out there in the community, surround yourself. At least if not on the internet, right? Go and find these people doing this stuff in real life, and then maybe you'll meet somebody, right? You just throw a little effort into the mix and try to go where the people who are into this are, whether online or in person, and then that'll probably lead you to success. But my whole outlook on it, not to drag it out, is a little bit different.
All day, dude.
I don't, at least from a Minuteman perspective, right? I think it's I don't want to say sketchy, but I don't advise people to go meet randos on the internet or stuff like that, because the opportunity for nefarious activity and setting people up or entrapment or whatever it is, right? The whole litany of probabilities, I say let it happen naturally. Or go find somebody reputable, and then if you find it naturally through them, okay, cool. But like, don't just trust anyone and everyone. Try to do the right thing.
Yep, it comes down to, so don't get wrapped around round count as far as like, well, the Army, they have all the rounds in the world, and that's how they're so tight-knit. It's like, you'd be surprised to get guys to actually give a dang about a class. Like cops are some of the worst, right? Because they get free rounds and they get the training. They're being told to go train, but it's about mindset, right? So if you have the mindset of, I want to be in this course, I want to learn what the instructors are putting out, I want to develop as a class, right? If you're going through like a 5-day course, if you're there because you want to be there, you're there because you want to take what you're learning, then that's how you develop a community. So for all the guys that are like, I'm balling on a budget and I need a community, don't get worried about like the round count courses and stuff. Go out and do any reputable course, any reputable course. Emphasis on reputable, okay? And while you're there, try to develop a community, because the worst thing that I see, and you guys could probably have seen this too, is from our community, is like guys need a fallback community. They need people to be able to bounce ideas off of, and people to actually train with, because when you don't have that basic level of just friendship and a community is where you see issues, right?
Is he over here burning tie downs?
I don't know.
Are you burning 550 cord?
Me?
Oh no, he's running.
Is that the cabot that you threw in the freaking sand?
Yeah, and the grips are loose on it. I'm like, what the hell?
That 1911 grips coming loose. I hate that.
Imagine that. Where's mine?
Hey, I will say this: like, if you guys want to know what I do all day, like, I literally just fuck with guns all day.
Guys, the biggest thing to kind of close that out is, if you don't have a community, okay, obviously I have a Discord. The only way to get into the Discord is to be with the Patreon, and it's not a plug. It's to say I don't want random people that are not committed just joining my Discord, right? If you can't pay an entry fee and you're in the Discord forever. You pay the $5 and you're in the freaking Discord server forever. But it's more about buy-in. Would you guys agree? You don't want randos that are just going to jump in and ask, what rifle should I buy for WROL? And then they go buy their rifle and they jump out. They've never put any freaking effort into bettering the community. You know what I mean?
I don't really care as long as they're not advising to do anything illegal. I try to surround myself with people who are better than me. And then if, a guy comes in who's not, but he's there for the right reasons, and he's not trying to do anything illegal, he just wants to help and better himself, cool, let's do that. Let's deal with that. That's my thought there. But with the paywall, it's a way to help, right? Like, one of the worst things that I did was, I don't want to say worse, but like, I nuked my Discord. I had too many people coming in there, and they were grifters, and they were just talking about outrageous stuff. And like, my Telegram sort of like that now. I have to like moderate that into oblivion because of the amount of absolutely insane, crazy stuff that goes down in there. It's like, I'm not your daddy, right? This is not what this is all about. If you can't meet me at a certain level of, hey, let's better ourselves or have a common goal and understand the low-hanging fruit here, like, bro, this ain't the place for you.
Right. Having the whole, like, the internet's crazy, right? Because anyone can say whatever they want and have no freaking training or doctrinal knowledge or anything, any sort of resume at all to back up what they're saying. They can just say whatever, and they can say their 7-inch AR barrel is the most preferred for SHTF and then just leave. And you're like, tell me where you're coming from, right? So that for me is why I have some sort of check and balances between moderation, keeping the number to a healthy number. Because you don't want a Discord server, let's use Discord as an example, with 30,000 people, because then no one's benefiting. You see what I'm saying? But if it's like, okay, I have a Discord server with 500, now you can have some healthy communication. You're not just going to get the people spamming the chat with whatever 7-inch ARs and stuff.
Those people don't deserve any time. The 7-inch AR guys.
Yes.
I don't even know what Discord is, so I don't have one. If you guys are,
guys,
go to Trench's Discord. I don't know.
If you're an Outlaw fan, if you're a freaking Outlaw fan, post in the comments if you want the Outlaw Nation to have a freaking Discord server. They're gonna blow you up, dude.
Outlaw plays with guns all day and doesn't have a Discord, and guys will look at that and be like, badass. Right?
That's badass.
What minute?
Sorry, bro.
Guys,
cool, dude. Awesome. Good for you, dude.
Dude, if you're in the trench,
he's in real life.
Yeah,
he's living life.
If you're in the trench Discord and you have found some sort of value from, I guess, the community that we have in ours, post in the comments and just try to convince Outlaw, hey, it's working for the trench Discord. Make your own, dude. Or we'll combine. We'll have an Outlaw trench Discord. It's gonna get out of control though. But okay, what's next? Let's see. What were we going to talk about? We were going to talk about armor, right?
You mentioned armor, rifles.
I brought the armor.
Let's talk about
armor.
On.
Okay.
With the armor. All right. Let's talk about armor. So the question always gets asked, right? I guess the question is always, should I buy armor? So my answer to that is always going to be yes. What are your guys' thoughts on that basic entry level question?
Yeah, yes, I think you should. I think you should have armor before they ban it. I mean, you do have to fight somebody competent enough to shoot you in the armor, as Clint Smith says. But yeah, I think if you can get armor right now before they ban it, you should definitely do it.
I don't disagree. I think armor is a great tool in the toolbox. I think a lot of guys. Maybe I'm a little bit different because I feel like it depends on where you're at, what your circumstances are. If you truly need it or not, or if it's some fantasy that you're going to wear it and that never is going to happen, right? But triaging aside, yes, get it before they ban it. You are a free person. Buy it. You should have it. Since you have the ability to, yes, do it. But if it's like a money issue, like that's where I sit back and I triage it. Do you need it as much as other things? Do you need body armor if you don't have those 30 loaded mags and an AR that's, zeroed? No. Get that first, then get the armor, right? But like, and that's where I find the whole question is, I don't want to say suspect, but like that's the people that are asking that, typically you have to look at that at face value. So they don't have armor. So what else do they not have? Is this the most important thing on the list?
Okay, so let's say we're talking to somebody that has realized, okay, the answer to the question, do I need armor, is yes. Okay, I need armor. Let's say they can afford it. What is the next thought process? For me, it's, okay, threat level, right? So we got soft armor and hard armor. Soft armor generally will cover more of your body, right? Can we all agree on that? Just broad speaking. Yeah. Okay, so soft armor typically will cover more, but then you get into this game of weight versus threat. Okay, so it really is going to come down to the threat. For me, and of course this is a good example, for a plate, this is all that it's going to cover, right? Your vital organs on the front and back, assuming your plate carrier is sized appropriately. So what are your guys' thoughts on guys getting only pistol rated armor, soft armor?
So my thoughts on that are, you have to really clearly identify what is your threat. Okay, you live in America. What is our biggest threat in America? Your biggest threat in America is not AP rounds, armor piercing rounds. So do I think you need level 4? No, because there is no cops that have armor piercing rounds. There's no SWAT teams that have armor piercing rounds. It would literally mean if you're going to do that, you're going to fight the military, who doesn't really have armor piercing rounds unless you're getting shot at with like a machine gun. And I mean, even A1's not really an armor piercing round, right? So, what is your threats? Your threat is some homie coming up and popping you with a Glock, right? Or your threat is, now to me, I think probably our biggest threat is probably 55 grain ball ammo out of a 10.5-inch pistol AR. I think that is really probably the biggest threat, the highest level of threat that I can think of. So yeah, my plates are, they're level 3 plus whatever, velocity systems, little bitty light things, because I don't think I'm going to get shot with level 4. And I have soft armor, but I really don't wear it. I keep soft armor in my kids' backpacks. And if you guys remind me, send me your address and I'll send you some for your kids, because I got a bunch. I keep it in their backpack. It's some that I got from Velocity, so that, like, hey, girls, if there's another active shooter, if you're running away from him, put your backpack on this side. If you're running, and it's in front of you, turn it around. But other than that, like, I don't even see that it's useful for cops anymore.
It makes me sick that we even have to talk about, because I don't have kids, so it's not even a thought process for me. But the fact that you've had to deliberately plan for an active shooter for your kids is freaking wild. It's a society issue.
Oh, bro, we've gone through it a bunch. Like, hey, if this happens, you do this. If this happens, you do this. Like, a bunch.
I've gone through it so much, at least planning it, how to deal with that my kids go to a school with armed guards. Like, I'm going through those hoops. Like, I'm not playing around whatsoever. Right. Like, it is unfortunate, right? The fact, like, that wasn't even in the 90s, man. Like, that wasn't, nobody's thinking armed guards protecting your kids at school, right? And now that's where we're at, putting armor in their backpacks. It's unfortunate.
It's wild. But okay, so not trying to cut you off, but just good. To capitalize on what Outlaw said. So Outlaw basically walked us through, even as a cop, you see a lot of cops now wearing plate carriers, right? What plate carriers, and just to define it, this isn't to insult anyone's intelligence, just so we're all on the same page. A plate carrier is a compromise. You can see mine right here, right back here, okay? That one has level 4 plates in it, but even if you're wearing side plates, you still have a lot of exposed areas. A lot of your C zone and D zone, okay, can get punched pretty hard. So going into this discussion, you got to realize that plates are very much still a compromise, but you can't cover your whole body in armor, because then you're going to lose mobility, okay? So with that being said, Outlaw basically outlined why soft armor is probably, for most people, it's still better than nothing, but it's not going to cover most of the threats. So building up to that, what are your thoughts on this, Risky?
Let me add Outlaw back here.
We also lost Outlaw randomly.
Here we go. I'm adding him back. So my thoughts, I mean, I agree with everything Outlaw said. As far as my standpoint, obviously you're more likely to encounter somebody with a handgun, or it's going to be an active shooter with an AR-15, right? Like, though, if there's something you're worried about armor for, odds are that's what it's going to be. My thought process is, as a Minuteman, right? We are. What does the Minuteman refer back to? The Revolutionary War. Those guys that would go out ahead and be basically scouting parties and set up for the regular militia to come and get a camp and get into organization to go into battle. So I'm looking at, I don't want to say paramilitary, because by definition I don't think that's correct, but like squad level threats. So as a Minuteman, I'm sitting there saying, if you're going to buy armor and do this, just get some plates. And don't get AR-500 plates, don't get steel. At minimum, just get some HESCO plates. It might not be ideal, but like if you're even looking at this, that's the lowest level you should be investing in. If you have money, and get more, get better, right? But like that is, if you're going to buy a plate carrier, you want to go down the armor road and you have AR-15s and stuff, what are you even wearing this for, right? Is this something to get out and escape your neighborhood and go to your freaking timeshare? Like, what are you even doing here? Or are you planning on fighting the paratroopers, the foreign invading paratroopers when they come here, right? Maybe then a plate carrier and hard plates are up your alley. So my whole thought process is, if you're going to do it, short of putting armor in your kids' backpacks, just get some HESCO plates, or better than that. That's the low level of entry here, in my opinion.
And you're looking at about $300, I think, last time I checked. For, I don't know if it's for both plates or one plate. It might be for both.
It's per plate. Per
Okay.
plate.
But guys, no one, we can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink it. But this is what I'll say. What is your life worth? Okay. And this is just my thoughts on it. We shouldn't have to convince you to, hopefully we have, but we should not have to convince you to buy armor, because if you ask anybody in Ukraine what the high commodity item, and them basically begging the United States to send more of, was more plates. Okay, more freaking plates and more helmets, because it at least give you an opportunity. That's all armor is giving you.
Same thing with Israel. Israel's calling for plates.
They're begging for it.
You guys are going to see a bunch of shot stop come on the market. So if you go back and look at my original videos, I shot a bunch of this. GBRS group shot a bunch of this. A bunch of people shot this. What is the 3 of 7 project, whatever, 3 of 20 project? Chad, the former, he shot it. Yeah, 3 of 7. He shot it and it worked. I've got about 15 sets of this stuff, but come to find out, they got raided in October, and it's all made in China, and it was failing tests for Homeland Security because they bought a bunch. So you're going to see a bunch of shot stop on the market. I wouldn't buy shot stop. I'd buy HESCO. Dude,
so if we have convinced you to get armor and you don't have armor, HESCO L210s, right? We've said it before, is your basic budget. As you're balling on a budget, at least I'll survive like 5 or 6 M855 Alpha 1s, or maybe 1 if you're lucky. It's not NIJ rated. A lot of people have shot them and they've done better than they're supposed to. Can we all agree on that? HESCO L210s have done better than they're supposed to.
The reason they are what they are is because they're not going through the rating process, but people are testing them and putting it on YouTube. So don't believe us, right? Because we're not going to, when you get shot somehow and you're like, oh, those idiots they gave me the unrated. No, this is our insurance. We're not telling you to do that. Just go look at other people doing it. So if that's good enough for you, I'll tell you this much, it's good enough for me.
Right. But if you have money put aside, your family's good, or whatever you're doing, everything's good, go get the HESCO level 4s. The lightweight, the best, what is it, $8,000 or something? The good stuff. Go get the set that's like, is it 8,000?
You got to be able to carry this stuff too. That's the other thing. A lot of guys ask me this question. It's like,
let me go to their website.
And I'm not the guy to sit here and rag you about PT. You know, I hate PT as much as the next guy, but it's a needed evil. You know, you got to do it. If you can't carry those plates, right? And that's the other thing. It's typically the guys who don't know if they can carry the weight of the plates are the ones asking about the AR-500s.
Okay, they're $2,400.
That's a lot.
For both. So it is a lot. $2,400 for a set of the best plates you can buy. You can get it in 1 to 3 weeks.
these Velocity. I don't think civilians can get them. They're $3,800 a set.
Ooh,
Right.
multi-curve.
I will say this. So this ballistic helmet, Ops Core, it is not. It's like barely ballistic rated, right? There's a bigger one that's like 7.62 ballistic rated. It's heavy as hell. It gives you the worst headache ever.
You guys got ballistic helmets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
So
we should. Should we?
I got a bump helmet. I'm over here.
I got
with
like
You
bump.
wanna
I got like
save
a
this for
bunch
the
of
next
different.
episode? Keep
Yeah,
them
yeah, yeah.
hanging?
Yeah, we can. But
We'll
here's
save
what I
the
want to
helmets
say.
for the next episode.
Here's what I want to say about this. There's been plenty of instances coming back from actual combat where level 3 plates or not quite as armored, maybe what is it, level 2 armor, the further somebody is away from you, the more it's going to stop. So like when they say level 3 plus, that's a A1 round point blank. Well, if that A1 round is 300 yards from you, then it's really going to stop it because it just doesn't have the same energy as point blank. So you don't always have to have level 4. As a matter of fact,
That's a great point.
most guys don't want to wear level 4 because it's really heavy.
I just
And
think
it's
about
expensive.
those videos in the trenches in Ukraine, right? And it's just point blank. That's where, obviously, that's the fantasy LARP, right? You're in a trench in Ukraine. But if I'm wearing armor, that's like the worst case scenario. You're up close. I mean, just think about that. We're
gonna
seeing
die anyway.
videos right now of dudes fighting point blank in Ukraine in trenches. And we went through the whole GWAT and didn't see nothing like that. Nothing. I was doing classes in Iraq on trench clearing just to fill time, right? When we're on our off rotation of patrolling. And we're like, it's never going to happen. And here we are watching it on YouTube every day. It's just nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what I personally believe the greatest thing that you're going to face in America, or possibly face, is going to be some active shooter somewhere, some skiff. Like, I really hope that there's not a invading army, that there's some sort of thing where Americans are killing Americans, because I think if there's just one day of Americans killing each other in the streets, we're never coming back from that.
Violence only makes things worse over time, generally speaking.
Oh, that's right. It just makes it worse. And I promise, if you've never seen it, you really don't want to see it. Like, it kills your emotions. Imagine what it's going to do to your wife and your kids and your grandkids, and like, you don't want that for them. Americans were too soft to see war. Where we really fucked up is when we made phones where you could take them over there and you can see it, and the news started bringing that back. That's why we can't win wars anymore. But everything is going to change. What you've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan is going to change. What you're about to see in what is probably World War III would be completely different than what's going to happen to you here in America. Like, it probably won't be trenches because we don't have a bunch of trenches, but it might be trenches in some place, right? It might be the subway. It might be like, it's going to be so totally different from what you think that's why you just have to be well-rounded in everything you do.
Right. Okay. With that being said, guys, we're going to pick it up on this is episode number 7, I believe. We're going to close out episode number 7, and we're going to post episode number 8 in a week from now. So if you're freaking liking these discussions, get down in the comments and let us know what you want to hear on the following episodes, okay? We're going to try to post these more regularly. Let us know what you agree with. Let us know what you disagree with. Let me know about your 7-inch AR. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks to my homies, Risky and Freaking Outlaw. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Until next time, it's going to be Trench Grenade, your average plaid shirt enjoyer, signing out. Cheers.